This video is to show the process for taking out the ice. So you can see there was a pylon there. That pylon is to mark the sensor. And before starting with the Bobcat, you want to use the hand edger and just like cut a solid line about basically the entire width of the Bobcat bucket. And usually I do this just off the sensor by about a foot or so. And that just gives me a place to start. And the reason I do it next to the sensor is because then that way you kind of make a clear line along the sensor of where you're going to work back from, kind of the opposite of, making sure you don't paint yourself into a corner. So here you can see like the ice is still a little bit colder than you'd like it to be. So I could have given it a little bit longer before starting here, but it's enough that the bond is broken, but just barely. So some of these spots you'll see the ice sort of separate in two layers, where the top layer of the ice comes off, but from the paint down stays, and that's actually what you want to try and avoid. So if you're getting that, you can leave the ice, leave it a little longer, do some other prep work around the logos or something like that, and that way you'll get sort of the ice coming all as a single layer. So the goal here is basically you want the floor warm enough so that you can have a thin layer of water sort of between the cement and the bottom of the ice, and then that way the ice will sort of separate and come off in chunks that are keeping the paint trapped inside the ice is really your goal. So you can see even like on the surface of the concrete here, it still looks kind of frosty. So that's an indication that it's still a bit cooler than you want it to be, and that you would want to keep the brine pumps running using the curling floor as a heat exchanger and continuing to warm the ice up from below. In this case, I probably had run the two pumps for about an hour together before starting to remove the ice. I could have given it an hour and a half, 2 hours at least. And as the video goes on, you're going to see there's more and more reflection on the surface, and that's because everything just keeps getting warmer. So you can see here now, like, the reason I keep looking out the side of the Bobcat window for you is to try and show that I am getting more ice breaking away to the left and the right of the bucket with every time that I drop and back drag. And so that's a good indication that you're starting to get a good amount of water underneath the slab, between the slab and the bottom layer of the ice. And so right now I'm basically just going around all the logos, and I'm coming as close as I can to the logos without actually damaging the logos. I'm also making a point of not driving on the logos. Maybe I should say not turning on the logos. So it's okay to drive above the logos if you're going in a straight line, forwards and backwards, provided you still have a bit of ice over the logos. You won't tear the logos if you go back and forth. If you turn or rotate on logos, that rotating motion of the skid steer spinning its tires will chew through the ice enough to tear up the logos and destroy the logos. So out the side window you can see here they're starting to remove this Canmore Plumbing logo. And so that logo still has a fair bit of ice on it. You'll see that shortly from another angle. But basically I went around and I removed as much ice as possible from all around that logo, and then they chipped off a bunch of the surface layer ice that's still above the logo, and now they're starting to lift it out. If you can get the surface layer ice removed well enough, those logos will peel out really easily. But if it either wasn't shaved down enough in advance, or you don't spend enough time chipping, then it can still be quite challenging to pull those logos out, just because of the volume of ice that's on top of them still. And so you can see that they're still working at removing that logo, and see they're sort of scraping ice off the top of the logo. If you're looking at the Lafarge logo, you can see just sort of how close you can get to a logo with the Bobcat. Everything that's removed around that Lafarge logo right now was all removed just using the Bobcat. So in terms of like timing of this, if you start warming the floor up, I would say about 2 hours before you want to be removing the ice. That'll give you enough time to warm the floor, provided you've got the curling floor to use as a heat exchanger, and mix the warm brine. And then it's really just a one-person operation for the first hour to 2 hours, depending on the Bobcat operator. They can. This is for an ice sheet with logos, like AK had. The Bobcat operator can basically start working around all the logos and build up a big enough pile of snow to make it worth bringing the truck out. Before that time, having people on the ice or the truck on the ice is really just in the way. So I'd say the first 2 hours or so, it's really just a one-person operation. You can pile a lot of snow and have it, at least a quarter to half the ice cleared, assuming you shave down low enough, that you'll have plenty piled up before you need somebody to come out with the pickup truck. So here you can see I'm just kind of working between these two logos to try and make it easier for them to get at the logo and remove this Canmore Plumbing logo. It's important to just coordinate your, where you work with the Bobcat relative to where other staff are working at chipping out logos. And you can see that you can come quite close to the boards if you take your time and are careful, but you don't really need to, maybe aside from some of the places where you're trying to work around the logos. You'll see later in the video where I show how you can kind of remove the ice from around the boards without actually having to go very close to the boards and having any risk of hitting the boards with the machine. So this spot here, they just removed a logo. You can see the difference in the ice, and that's kind of given me the ability to now get closer to removing the ice around the eagle, because the eagle was previously sort of blocked in by that other logo that was there needing to be saved. So, about 2-ish hours into the process of taking out the ice is about when you need another person or two out there in order to start sort of working with the Bobcat operator to remove some of the logos that might be sort of landlocking other logos in. So now you can see this logo coming out. You can see the ice that's sort of getting rolled over as he pulls on it, and that's a bit of an indication that there's still too much ice on the logo. you want as little ice there as possible. Like, it should ideally just be possible to pull the logo out in about 30 seconds without much effort, because the more you pull in the logo, the more the logo gets stretched, and the more the logo gets stretched, the harder it's going to be to put that logo in next time around. Ideally, you want to not put any more force on the logo than absolutely necessary to remove it, because stretched logos are more challenging to reinstall for logos that are getting reused. For logos that are definitely not getting reused, you can just scrape them out with the Bobcat. I did another video showing removing logos with the Bobcat and trying not to destroy them, and some of them that actually worked reasonably well, but I would only recommend it for logos that don't necessarily need to be saved. If you do run the warm brine for too long, you'll eventually make everything kind of too warm and soupy, and that's when you're really going to have the paint separating once everything kind of turns to slush. So in this case, we didn't really hit that point on this ice out. Total runtime on the curling floor pump was I think nearly 4 hours, so I ran it for maybe an hour and a half earlier on, and then I decided it wasn't quite warm enough, so I ran it for another couple hours, and I probably shut it off a little later than I should have, and it was mostly just because I was sort of so preoccupied with removing the ice of the Bobcat that I waited longer than I should have to get out and switch the pumps back off. One thing that might be a consideration for future years is potentially just not removing any of the logos by hand with the ice chippers. Just remove everything around the logos and leave whatever logos need to be put back in the ice for the next day. Just like completely work around the logos with the Bobcat. Maybe remove one or two if they're blocking access to clearing ice from around other logos. But if you were to just remove all the logos or all the ice around the logos with the Bobcat and purely just leave the logos melt, you do the least damage to the logos. So here you can see a good example of when there's a really good layer of water between the ice sheet and the ice. So when every single time I drop the bucket to break the ice, it's pulling almost 6 feet on either side of the bucket. I'm getting some really nice big chunks as I break the ice up, and that's really ideal. Once you're getting chunks like that, it goes a lot faster. So really, that's kind of how warm you want the floor before you start the process. I was probably a little too early this time around, as you can see from the start of the video. But large chunks of ice is really what you want to see. You want it to it should feel easy. So here I'm showing, this is around the boards. You can see I'm getting some nice big chunks, but I'm actually not very close to the boards. I'm probably like 3 or 4 feet away from the edge of the boards with the bucket. So I'm able to break up everything next to the boards without actually coming close to the boards with the Bobcat at all. This really helps prevent, accidentally damaging the boards. by getting too close, and it really should only be necessary to go close to the boards at all when you are maybe piling the last little bit of snow. So this is another example of like pushing the snow around the boards, or the ice around the boards. I'm not more than like 3 feet off the boards right now, and you can really push and pile the snow quite well without really ever having to come close to the boards. And this video from a previous year is just showing how easy it should be to remove a logo if you've got it prepped properly in terms of your ice depth and the ice chipped off the top. It should really just peel out with ease, and you shouldn't do any damage or stretch the logo at all. This is kind of the ideal, what you want to aim for.